Today's guest is on a mission to end the phrase, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. Jay Dusold is helping teens and 20 somethings cut through the noise, ditch career confusion, and find their true job match. He's a career guide, author, motivational speaker, and basically your kid's GPS when they feel totally lost in the world of work. If your teen is stuck in the swirl of what now? Or you're a parent pacing the kitchen, wondering or worried that they'll ever move out, this episode is for you. Jay, welcome to the Teen Anxiety Maze.
Hi, Cynthia. It's so good to be here. I'm excited to spend some time with you and your audience today, and thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Well, I can tell you that working with teens and anxiety, that the intolerance to uncertainty, meaning I don't know what I'm doing after this high school time, or have even worked with college graduates who are still like, I don't know what's next. This is a big thing. So, what is causing what are you seeing as you work with clients? Where is all this confusion and anxiety coming from when it goes to what job, what college, what career is happening?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it is
Mhm.
a prevalent issue with teens and 20 somethings. So I'm so
Mhm.
glad you're focusing on this, and thank you for all the work that you do on the anxiety level. I know that this topic is very anxiety inducing, both to the
Mhm.
young person and then also to the parents. So I'm so glad
Yes.
that you are doing
Mhm.
what you're doing. Yeah, so I think there are probably two primary causes of a lot of this confusion and the resulting angst. So one is there's just an overwhelmingly vast amount of options to choose from, right? And
Mhm.
so many people listening probably have heard the idea of analysis paralysis, which
Mhm.
just simply means that contrary to what we might think, meaning, hey, the more choices we have, the more freedom that we have. Studies have shown that the opposite is actually true, that the more choices we have, the less freedom we have, and the more paralyzed we become because
Mhm.
we're trying to analyze all of the options in order to make the best choice. And
Mhm.
so with such a deluge of information coming at us and the information that we need to consider to make that choice, it's overwhelming. And so
Mhm.
what happens is we actually shut down and we avoid
Mhm.
making the choice because we feel that overwhelm. So
Mhm.
that's one option. And of course, Cynthia, every month we are adding new jobs, new industries are creeping up because of technology, right? So
Yeah.
we've got like whole entire career fields that didn't exist 5 years ago with a number of different positions and valid, fantastic jobs within those new categories. And so
Mm.
the number of options to choose from is only increasing. So that's one is just so much overwhelm regarding the options. And then the second thing, which is really the kind of the core of it, is that young people don't understand how they're designed for work and what
Mhm.
facets of their innate wiring should they discover in order to then actually find something that matches. And
Mhm.
so they don't know the categories of things that they should discover or even how to discover those. So they just don't know who they are. And they don't know, I call
Yep.
it their work shape. It's like,
Mhm.
and I love using the analogy of that old, it's been around for decades. It's that Tupperware toy. It's the plastic sphere with the cutout shapes in it and then the blocks. That's a great analogy for what's going on, right? There are so many cutouts, meaning positions, jobs out in the world of work, the sphere, but young people don't know their shape. They don't know
Mhm.
that color block. They don't know what shape they are. So therefore, they don't know which options would actually fit and be a great match for them. And so this is really the crux of it. Those two key issues, they don't understand their wiring, and then they're just overwhelmed with so many options.
Mm. Well, how are you helping them figure out what this true job match is? Because I'm so curious about it because I can see how confusing that is for them, and I talk to them about it all the time, and I do a little bit of stuff in my program where they learn their strengths and values and skills and stuff, but I still see them at the end being like, "Okay, I still don't know what to do." So how do you help them?
Yeah, so I take two different tracks. One is like more like a job facts journey, and the other one is more like a job fits journey. So there are
Mm,
some young people who really feel strongly about what they want to do. And I say, great, like if you don't feel like you really have to understand yourself to make a match, you have some of that figured out, fantastic, that's great.
mhm,
What often happens, though, is that upon asking some basic questions, it becomes very apparent that they don't know all the essential facts about that option that they're going to be
mhm,
pursuing. And so for
mhm,
some students, it's just a matter of empowering them and equipping them with a framework. I call it the job research blueprint. And that's just saying, okay, great, you have an interest you feel really strongly about, fantastic. Let's just make sure that you're making a well-informed decision because you're understanding the job in a holistic way, right? So there's
mhm,
9 critical things that they really should figure out and discover before they make that decision to invest time, money, and effort, right? So I call it the guess and go strategy. Most young people use the guess and go where they're like, well, I know that this job includes or involves a subject that I like or an activity that I enjoy. And
mhm.
based on that very limited amount of information, they make this huge decision. They start the preparation for it. And then as they're discovering more of the details, they're like, uh-oh,
Mhm,
I didn't realize this part of it, forget it, right? And so the
mhm.
things that make them change their mind and regret their choice aren't deeply buried things that there's no way you could possibly discover until it's too late. Like we're talking
Yes.
surface level things that they could know from something like the job research blueprint tool, where they know, oh, I really need to discover this before I make a decision. So that's one way I help some students. It's just empowering them with that framework.
Mhm,
Most of the clients that I work with, they don't even have that level of interest like real strongly, and so that's
mhm,
a matter of the fit finding, which is first really understanding the parts of their innate design that matter for matching. And
mhm,
then the way that we go about that is not through questions and providing, responses and questions and answers. We actually have a method where we can inspect and analyze their patterned repeated behavior. And so
Ooh.
what's really cool about that is we're not relying on their subjective self opinions, but we're actually analyzing them when they're in their sweet spot from times in their past. And we can see behavioral evidence that this is really who they are, because listen, we do it too. There's times that we answer those types of questionnaires, and
Mhm.
we're answering based on our envisioned self.
Right, how we want to be.
Right, right. Not our actual self. And it's not even
Mhm.
like ill intended. It's just
Yeah.
studies have shown that people have a really hard time being super honest and objective when they're in those types of assessments. And so we kind of avoid all of that subjectivity because
Mhm,
if a young person is putting in information in a tool that's supposed to help match, and that information is really not them, then
mhm.
the outcome is not going to be all that helpful. Um,
Right.
so we make sure we actually focus in on the full breadth of what we need to know about the client, which is more than just aptitudes and interests. And
Mhm,
the way that we do it is just to analyze their behavior so we see who they really are, not who
mm,
they might think they are.
right. Oh, that makes so much sense. I remember, this when I was a school counselor, but at an IEP meeting, the student, we always say, "What's your future goals?" And, we try to help him get there, and he said, "I wanna be a YouTuber."
Wow,
And,
that's a growing one.
yep, a lot of kids wanna be YouTubers, and I get it, I'm a YouTuber in a way.
Yes,
But
you
I
are.
think that, he wanted to, make $1,000,000 or something. And he just he wasn't doing anything that would make me even like, he wasn't even really making very many videos. He was just like, "Well, I wanna do that."
Yep.
It's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, well, what do you know about making videos?" "Well, I don't know." "And what have you already started trying to do?" Like, if you looked at his behavior, the behavior would be, "No, this is not gonna work out," because he's not doing anything. Like, I would think if someone was a YouTuber or wanted to be a YouTuber, they would already have some interest or they would be playing around with that in their spare time, and
Mhm.
just trying to figure out like how do you create videos or how do you edit them, something like that. And so
Yep.
this makes so much sense to me. Other times there were kids that were like, I'm going to college, but they hated school and they refused to do any homework.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, college is school.
Kind of about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're gonna have homework, and you're gonna have to do it, and they're like, "Oh, no," you just go there and you hang out with people. I don't know, but, I could not get some people to really understand that what your behavior is
Mhm.
and what you're saying you want to do don't make sense, so it seems like you're helping them see that.
Yeah, yeah, we are. And there, there are core behaviors that might not have a particular expression yet. In other words,
Mm,
it could be that someone who would be a fantastic YouTuber has a core set of base skills and interests and things that would apply to video.
mm,
They haven't yet applied it to video, but you could see the core traces of the key things that would make them a successful YouTuber. Because
mm,
maybe they've always done interviews, like they've always interviewing their family at holidays and trying to get the scoop and trying to, dig into more information. You're like, oh, so that's the key to being successful. They just haven't
mhm.
applied it to the medium of video yet, right?
Okay, yeah.
So that's what we're really doing. We're really getting at those base things because let's face it, a lot of young people don't have lots of experience, and that's
Mhm,
okay. When we are able to find the base things, then we're able to say, okay, you haven't done this yet, but you have the base wiring that would actually be a great fit. That's just the new context. Okay, I
mhm,
liken it to a food dish. Okay, a food dish is nothing more than a collection of individual ingredients.
mm,
That's all a job is. A job is just a collection of four basic ingredients, a set of skills applied to specific content in a setting, getting a primary outcome, right? But
mhm,
each of those four things is a separate individual thing, right? And so you could see a young person's actual enjoyed abilities by examining times in their life when they're in their sweet spot and you see a pattern,
mhm,
right? Now, maybe an analytical ability has never been applied to a specific context, but if a job requires an analytical ability, they can do it because they have the base analytical ability, right? If they need
mhm,
to be in a particular environment that triggers and sustains their intrinsic motivation, and you can see that, oh, this job option would actually put them in that environment, it will work. Do we need to
mhm.
know that they've been in that specific job yet? No, it doesn't matter because we can see
Mhm.
the base issues that would indicate it's just more of the same, but in a different setting. And so it's
Yeah.
very empowering because it's not even relying on the experience of jobs for young people. It's
Mhm.
really analyzing them back from when they're children and they're doing things like, oh, like I built an airplane in the second grade and it flew across the entire classroom. Like that counts for some of my clients. And then we're able to analyze what went into that, and what were they working with? What were the core skills that went into that? What was the environment like in which they accomplished that? Well, you get a dozen or so of those and you start seeing patterns. You start saying, oh my gosh, this young person always defaults to this handful of stuff to get things done. Wow, right?
Yeah.
So we can see the evidence of their wiring manifesting and coming out in other
Mhm.
non-job contexts. And once we capture it,
Right.
then we can actually analyze it and then apply it to the future. So what is initially descriptive becomes prescriptive. What we learn
Oh my
about their
gosh.
past, we can actually use to be a compass into the future. And it's
Mm.
holistic, meaning it's not just their skills, it's these other critical areas that we can actually discover about their innate design.
So this interviewing, I'm guessing, is how you're getting all this information. You're probably interviewing the teen or the young adult, but do you also then interview the parents to get their perspective of when they were seeing these glimmers of passion or, when they've lost sense of time because they were doing something?
No, actually, because it can contaminate the process.
Okay. That's I
Yes.
was because parents are part of what I wanna talk about today. So, you only talk to the teen or the young adult about all these things and, like, what they can remember about these different times that they were so excited about stuff. So, parents very often I mean, obviously, I'm a parent and I want to help my children do all the things, and I wanna get in
Mhm.
there and problem solve with them or sometimes for them because I think that they need something or whatever. But how are parents getting in the way? Like you said, if you interviewed them, it could contaminate the actual, what you're finding out. So, what shouldn't be parents doing? What is getting in the way of their child finding this stuff out?
Yeah, a few things. Number one, the biggest thing is expectations, right?
Mm,
And so, and listen, I have a 27 and 25-year-old, two boys, and I've definitely at times have not done a good job at
mhm,
refraining from
mhm.
imposing, my plan for their life. So I'm
Yes.
just saying it, whoever's listening, I'm saying this as a fellow struggler in this
Mhm,
area. But what happens a lot of times is, listen, we panic, like we want. This is how I got into this work, by the way, Cynthia. My oldest son, Justin, in 2014, he was a junior in high school, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'd had my own bad experience going to college, not knowing why I was there, pursuing a path that
mhm,
crashed and burned. I had an existential crisis. I was depressed. All that I went through it. I went through the dark
mhm,
season. And then many years later, I'm at that crossroads again, not with me, but now with my son, and that's how I got into all this work. So I've been there as a parent. And so what happens is parents, we want our kids to reach their full potential. We've seen how awesome they are, and we want them to find a place in the world of work that will allow them to really be that awesome person and also
mhm.
get out of the basement,
Right.
and become financially, self-sustaining. And so
Yes.
we often make that choice using a criteria that's not actually what's best for them, right? Maybe
Mm,
it's prestige, maybe it's money, maybe it's, hey, this field is very secure, it's not going anywhere, there's a lot of job security. And those are all good reasons. Like, we're the parent. Most parents are not doing it out of an ill-intentioned or hurtful purpose. Um,
mhm,
but those are ultimately actually not great reasons for direction. What is
mhm,
a great reason is, this is a great match for your wiring. And because it fits you holistically, it will result in success and motivation and happiness, which are the three
mm,
pillars of a true match. So
mhm,
parents just have to be careful that they're just not superimposing their ideas of what would be a great option for them. And I always tell parents, just because your kid lacks a destination doesn't mean that yours is actually a good idea. It's not like, oh, in the absence of one, well, mine will do. No, that's not true. That's
mhm,
not how it works.
mhm,
So, and I also tell parents, Cynthia, that because I've worked with parents, and they will swear, and they truly believe this, and I think it's authentic. They'll say, "Oh, we don't have expectations for our kids." Then I'll talk to the young person, and they will have a different story. But here's the
mhm,
deal: the parent truly did not do that explicitly. It's
mhm,
little things they say sometimes, or completely misinterpreted things by their children. So I
mhm.
always tell the parent who says, "Oh, I don't have to listen to this part of the podcast because I don't do that." I'd say,
Yeah.
"Okay, if you don't communicate something that's clearly what you want, do you communicate that there is that freedom?" Right? Because if
Mm.
you don't actively communicate the freedom regularly, the false assumption will be the default, which is, my parents want me to do X, Y, and Z. And you might
Ah,
hear it as a parent down the road and be like, oh my gosh, I never thought that for a second. And then you
yeah,
realize it was the kid's interpretation. So it's
yeah.
great if you're not actively communicating what you want, but the flip side is, are you communicating that they have the freedom? And if you're not, that's a great growth area for any
Mm,
listening parent, is even if you think you're giving them the freedom to choose, make sure you tell them regularly. Because if not, again, they'll just
mm.
default into saying, well, I bet mom and dad, they probably really want me going this path. So make sure we're
Yeah,
communicating
yeah.
frequently.
Oh my gosh, that's such a I would have never thought of that. And I have grandkids now, so I
So,
I know that I'm gonna start like, well, already my daughter has told me when I'm like, "Oh, I wonder if Oliver's gonna play the guitar. I wonder if he's gonna dance. I wonder if he's gonna, be a theater person. And these are all things that we did or, like things that
Oh,
I like
yes.
or things
Yeah.
that, and she's like, "Mom, he can do whatever." And I'm like, "Well, I know he can totally do whatever, but only do these things, and so I have to
Well, it's
remind
even worse as a
myself.
grandparent. You got it even worse now, Cynthia. You're in trouble.
I know, because I really want him to have I want all of
Oh,
them to
that's
have their
great.
potential. So,
That's great.
yeah, so it's fun. But so those are some things that parents should really be aware of. But what can they do even today to
Hmm.
help their child start like figuring this out or not being as anxious about this job, career, college
Hmm.
next step?
Yeah, so I think there are a few things. Number one is, and there's an ancient proverb. It's from Hebrew wisdom literature, and it says, "Life and death are in the power of the tongue." And man, I think that is so important. And listening parents might feel like, well, my kids are a little bit older. I haven't had a meaningful influence in their life since they were 14. It might feel that way, but the reality is you do, and take advantage of it. So I always encourage parents, the starting point is affirming that your kid can be awesome somewhere. Affirm that, speak it over them. People call it speaking a blessing over them, whatever language you want to use, but speak that positivity because it is true. That's not wishful thinking. That's true. There is a place in the world of work where they can be awesome somewhere. So
Yeah.
speak that to them, remind them about that. Right now, they might not feel it right now, and they might have to do some work to
Mhm.
figure that out. But the truth is, every person is designed to be awesome in several spots in the world of work, not
Yeah.
just one.
Yeah.
So I always encourage parents, the powerful tongue, your mouth, the
Mhm.
words that you form and release over your children is extremely powerful, and it's simple. Start there. And if you don't feel like you can speak the words, it's okay, parents. You can cheat and text them. If you're like,
I love it.
oh, my kid would think that's so weird if I just said something. Okay, that's fine. I understand some relationships are there, and that's okay. But you can text. You can text, and we won't think you chickened out. You can do the texting. That's fine. So I think
Well, and
that's
it probably fits for them too, because 'cause they're used to that
well,
kind of communication.
exactly. Yes, exactly. So
Mhm.
I think that the words affirmation and speaking a positive future is really important. The second thing I think is, you know, if I, I do a whole thing on this. I know I'm mindful of the clock here, but this is so important. So a lot of times parents, they have a kid and the kid floats an idea, right? Like, oh, I want to do whatever, be a
Mhm.
YouTuber. And
Mhm.
right away, typically the parent knows, okay, this is a bad idea, right? And they're more than happy to let their child know that it's a bad idea,
Yeah.
right? And so right
Mhm.
away they come against their thing, right? And give them all good
Mhm.
reasons. Very few people actually, make a decent amount of money, you get whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
I always tell parents, run with the interest.
Mhm.
Keep your mouth
Yeah.
closed. Now, you don't have to say, oh, that's a great idea, because it might not be.
Mhm.
But you can say, I'm so glad you have a strong interest, right?
Mhm.
Now you're allowing them to maintain ownership of the idea, right? And this is the second point I'm making here is introduce the idea of thoroughly researching the job first. Okay. So you're speaking the words, you're encouraging them. The next thing is be mindful to say in a very strategic, wise way, I'm glad you have that interest. Do you know all that you should know about it? Right. So
Mhm.
don't stop the interest, because interest and ownership always results in three other qualities: there's motivation, there's effort, and there's initiative. So
Mhm.
you want those three qualities to stay intact if they're going to actually do the research that's necessary to get a holistic understanding of the job they're interested in pursuing.
Mm.
Don't
Okay.
ruin the power of the ownership. Work with it. So don't come
Mhm.
against the idea. Celebrate that they have an interest and say, "Oh, that's awesome. What do you think is important to know about that? Do you know the key factors that would be involved with that position? Do you know the income potential? Speaking of income potential, do you know what your envisioned lifestyle cost is? Because if not, you have no way to evaluate whether or not the potential income would be sufficient. right? So
Yeah.
you can roll with the interest to move them into doing that exploration so they can then say, oh my gosh, like I this is probably a terrible idea. And in the parent, you're
Mhm.
going ding ding ding, yep, I could have told you that.
Yeah.
But you wisely didn't because you got
Right.
them, you empowered them with a
Mhm.
framework and staying with the ownership. And then the third thing, real quick, is just help them do that discovery, help them really
Mhm.
explore when they were in their sweet spot. What were they like? What were they doing? What were they working with? Those four areas of the job, the skills, the subject matter, the setting, and the outcome. Use those four lenses to look back at those times they're in their sweet spot and say, what are the things they're defaulting to all the time for skills? What are they constantly working with? What are the qualities of the environment they're in when they're achieving? And what tends to be the thing that's always most satisfying when they do things in the past, right? So use those four areas or categories as a lens to look at the past things in their life and really help them start seeing how they're wired for work.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Now you have a book that's not a book.
Yes,
And
that's
so
true.
tell us about that and how people can, and just how they can get a hold of you, how they can work with you. Tell us all of those things.
Yeah, sure. So on most social media platforms, I am life after 12th, life after 12. So I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube. That is the website. The web address is lifeafter12th.com. I'm on LinkedIn as Jay Dusold. And please, yeah, I'd love to connect with you on any of those socials. If you're really looking for like some of the coaching and to really get a solution sooner than later, the website lifeafter12th.com, you can see both of the coaching programs, the job facts journey and then the job fits journey. And the book is on Amazon. It's called Know Before You Go. And this really focuses on the job facts side of the work I do. And it does introduce readers to those 9 things, that job research blueprint. So they can actually learn what is that framework that I can be applying as I'm thinking about jobs that interest me.
Oh, I love that so much. Well, of course, I'm going to put all the links to that in the show notes so people can just click and go and see what is all going on in your world. But I'm trying to think. I maybe have that book. I can't remember if I got it when you were first because I've been following you for a long time. So I'm gonna have to dig that out and look at it a little bit more because I can help, talk to my clients about it too. Like
That's cool. Yes,
these
yes,
are important things that you need to know about because that is something that I deal with quite a bit in my journey. I am so glad that you're with us. I think we're gonna have other connections at some point because this is just our our ideas about what we're doing with kids are so connected,
yes, I
and
agree.
I really wanna make sure that, people have all my guests have been like, I want all parents to know there's so many adults in this world that can help you with everything. Like, we do
Yeah,
not have to do this parenting thing alone because it is hard
yes.
and confusing. And, once we get one thing figured out, then we have another thing we have to figure
Mhm.
out. And so I want them to know that all these people are just out here waiting to help lead them in the next step. So thank you so
Awesome.
much for being with us.
Yes, Cynthia, thanks so much. It was a pleasure to be here. And thanks again for giving me the opportunity to spend some time with your audience today.
Yes, sure. Thank you.